Well, in the face of tariq pe tariq, deferment after deferment, delays after delays in court, this is quite simply and by all accounts the biggest Ram Mandir push by the Modi Sarkar. It's a big effort by the Modi government and is clearly linked to the 2019 elections, no matter what the BJP will have you believe. The Modi government has filed a plea before the Supreme Court seeking the return of excess undisputed Ayodhya land to the original owners. The BJP says the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas are the rightful owners of this undisputed land in Ayodhya. The primary proponent of the Ram temple, the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, should be given this land, says the BJP. Stating that the disputed land is just 0.313 acres, the Modi government has urged the Supreme Court to remove a Supreme Court imposed status quo on this remaining 67 acres of undisputed land. The centre's move comes after repeated delays in Supreme Court in the hearing of the case. The land, if returned to the original title holder, that is the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, could pave the way for construction or preparations for the Ram temple. Meanwhile, the Nirmohi Akhada, another party in this dispute, is not happy with the centre's decision and has decided to also move the Supreme Court against this petition seeking the return of excess land to the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas.
I am surprised that some people are objecting to an application which only says that the land which is not required, which the Supreme Court had directed that it should be returned to the owners after the litigation. We would have been happy if it had happened earlier, but then whenever it has happened, it's a good move.
ये बहुत हर्ष का विषय है, आनंद का विषय है। सरकार को हर हाल में पहल करनी पड़ेगी। हम लगातार कह रहे हैं कि साधुओं की नाराजगी मोल मत लीजिए। आप ही हमारे अश्वमेघ के घोड़े हैं, आपसे ही हमें विश्व विजय करना है। आप ही के द्वारा राम मंदिर बनेगा, आप ही को इस विषय को आगे लेकर के जाना है। आपके द्वारा 5 सालों के कार्य सराहनीय हैं, इसमें कोई संदेह नहीं है, पर राम मंदिर का विषय बहुत इस समय भावनात्मक है और ऐसे विषय को सुप्रीम कोर्ट के और महात्माओं के जनमानस के मध्यस्थता करिए। अगर ये फैसला हाई कोर्ट ने या सरकार ने लिया है तो जो वर्तमान जमीन है सरकार के अधीन, वो अगर न्यास को मिलती है तो उससे हम काम आरंभ कर सकते हैं।
Today's move by way of application by the central government is really, it is a matter of great happiness for all those who believe in Lord Rama and who are desirous to construct Ram temple in Ayodhya. So it is a great hope created by the central government, and we are hopeful that this application will yield something, and the moment a status quo order is lifted by this court, the path for construction of Ram temple will be clear.
Thank you very much.
मस्जिद को छोड़ करके जो जमीनों की मांग की जा रही है उस पर हमें कोई इतराज नहीं है। सरकार के कब्जे पहले से भी है, सरकार किसको दे रही है किसको नहीं दे रही है ये कोर्ट जाने, और हमें कोई इतराज नहीं है।
तो हम तो अपना जवाब सुप्रीम कोर्ट में रखेंगे ही, लेकिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट जब एंटरटेन करके हमसे जवाब मांगेगी तभी हम उसको रखेंगे। तो इसके मस्जिद के 3 तरफ तो हमारी कब्रिस्तान की ज़मीन है, उसके बाद चौथी तरफ भी है, उसके बाद इनकी ज़मीन कहाँ पे है राम जन्मभूमि न्यास की, ये तो अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आएगा, तफसील से जब आएगा तो उस पर बहस होगी।
Take you to that disputed site to show you precisely, pictorially, what this actually means. The disputed site is one small part of the land and there is an adjoining stretch of acquired land. The centre in its writ petition has said that the disputed land, which is merely 0.313 acres, that little red square, is sub judice. Nobody can touch that until the Supreme Court rules on it. But it has pleaded that the adjoining excess land, measuring around 68 acres, acquired by the Narasimha Rao government in 1993, should be returned to the owners. It was acquired in 1993 after the Babri Masjid demolition. A major chunk of this excess land belongs to the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, which is a primary proponent of the Ram temple. The Nyas has pledged that they wish to start construction of the Ram temple as soon as it gets access to this land. So the yellow blinking part is the excess land. The little red square is the disputed site. where the Babri Masjid once stood and where the Ram temple is sought to be built by many of these outfits. The blinking orange spot is the 68 acres of undisputed land that the government has now moved the Supreme Court to return to the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas so they may begin construction of the Ram temple. Well, after the Modi government filed this petition in the Supreme Court seeking the return of that excess land around the disputed land to the original owners, the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, who stands to benefit if the Supreme Court agrees to lift that status quo, has pledged the construction of the Ram temple at the earliest possible date. The Nyas, which is, as we said, the primary proponent of the reconstruction of the temple, is the original title holder for that portion of the a portion of the undisputed land. However, the Babri Action Committee has decided to challenge the Modi government's petition in the apex court and slammed the government's move to seek this undisputed excess land around the disputed Ayodhya site. Meanwhile, BJP MP Subramaniam Swamy has claimed that the petition is an indication for the immediate construction of the Ram Mandir. On the other hand, Asaduddin Owaisi's AIMIM has lashed out at the government. He said that in 2003, the Supreme Court said that unless the dispute is resolved, status quo has to be maintained over the surplus land as well. But the government, with this move, is threatening the judicial process, they say.
आज भारत सरकार ने सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जो अर्जी लगाई है, मैंने सुबह ही कह दिया कि हम उसका अभिनंदन करते हैं और देश के सौहार्द के लिए मुझे लगता है कि यह कदम आवश्यक था। मैं और हमारी पूरी सरकार इस पूरे निर्णय का हृदय से स्वागत करते हैं।
कि जो गैर विवादित भूमि है, जिस पर किसी का दावा नहीं है, कोई विवाद नहीं है, उस पर विवाद की कोई ज़रूरत भी नहीं है, तो सरकार ने वही अर्जी दी है एससी में और मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि ये एक बड़ा कदम है जिसको लोग सराहेंगे। कोई चुनाव, राम मंदिर का विषय बीजेपी के लिए चुनाव का विषय नहीं है, वोट का विषय नहीं है, आस्था का विषय।
It should be returned. The Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas has been asking for its return since 1996. 23 years have passed. It is time we return this land to the rightful owner of the piece, namely Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas. But there is a status quo order by the Supreme Court issued sometime in early 2000s. That's why the government has approached the Supreme Court requesting them to vacate the status quo so that the land can be returned.
Frankly speaking, once this is released, this is almost 67 acres, whereas the disputed land where Babri Masjid stood once upon a time, that is only 2.77 acres. So all the temple complexes can now start being built if this land is released. And so the government has taken a step and I welcome it.
कांग्रेस पार्टी ने हमेशा मानना है कि राम मंदिर का जो मुद्दा है वो आस्था का विषय है। पूरी पक्ष की, सारे पक्षों की सुनवाई सुप्रीम कोर्ट में अभी चल ही रही है। याचिका में जो पिटिशनर्स हैं, कहीं भी ना बीजेपी है, ना आरएसएस है, वीएचपी या उनके कोई भी साथी संगी है। तो अभी जो सुनवाई हो रही है उसका जो भी वर्डिक्ट आता है, कांग्रेस पार्टी ने हमेशा से माना है जो भी सरकार सत्ता में होगी, कोई भी राजनीतिक दल जो सत्ता में होगा, उसका पालन करना उनकी जवाबदेही और जिम्मेदारी होती है। तो अब इस समय पे आकर इस तरीके की याचिका दर्ज करना, मैं मानती हूं कि कहीं ना कहीं ध्यान भटकाने का काम हो रहा है।
जवाब दें बीजेपी वाले, लेकिन कहां मंदिर बनेगा इसके बारे में तो आज तक कोई बात नहीं हुई। बीजेपी ने कौन सी अपनी ऐसी, उन्होंने जो दायर किया हो मुकदमा, ऐसे किस मुकदमे के कि राम मंदिर के लिए उनको जगह चाहिए।
जनता की अपेक्षा है कि वहां एक भव्य राम मंदिर बने, कि इस मामले का संवैधानिक रूप से निपटारा होना चाहिए। राम जन्मभूमि का मामला 70 साल से पेंडिंग है सूट में। अब यह अपील भी लगभग 10 साल से पेंडिंग है। तो यह अपील जो अब 70 साल पुरानी हो गई पूरा सूट, तो इसका निष्पादन जल्द से जल्द होना चाहिए।
And remember, here's what Prime Minister Modi had said in an interview on the Ram Mandir issue. This was his first comment on the issue. Here's what he said.
ट्रिपल तलाक का ऑर्डिनेंस सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट आने के बाद लाया गया है। हमने, भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने अपने मैनिफेस्टो में भी कहा है के संविधान की मर्यादाओं में हम इसका समाधान करेंगे। मैं कांग्रेस के साथियों से विशेष रूप से विनती करता हूं, देश की शांति, सुरक्षा, भाईचारे के लिए आग्रह करता हूं कि वे उनके अपने वकीलों को कोर्ट के अंदर इस मसले में रुकावट डालने वाले एजेंडा से बाहर निकालें, रुकावटें न करें।
So here are a few questions that we need to put on the table before we go into our discussion on this issue. Is it optics or is this really a substantive push? Question number one, has the Modi government been pressured into displaying some solid intent on the Ayodhya issue? Question number two, has the Sangh Parivar, chiefly the RSS, pressure spooked the Modi government into moving the Supreme Court before the elections? Question number three, will this new Supreme Court gambit give the Modi government the Mandir advantage, which appeared to have been slipping under RSS pressure? Is the appeal for non-disputed land for Ram Mandir mere optics, or is it much more substantive? Can something really happen? Question number five, will the Sangh Parivar see Modi's push as a signal of intent and strength, or just as rhetoric and optics? And finally, question number six, does this finally confirm that Ram Mandir is the Modi Sarkar's top issue in 2019, despite what the BJP says? Joining me live on 5 Live this evening, Sriraj Nair, spokesperson of the VHP, Shaina NC leader of the BJP, wing commander, retired GB Atri is a political analyst until recently with the Congress party. Shaina, you know, many would say that the BJP is constantly saying that there's nothing political about the Ram Mandir. Others would say the very fact that the government has moved the Supreme Court on this non-disputed land issue right before the elections confirms not only that the Ram Mandir is a priority issue, but also that this is directly linked to the elections and therefore political.
Shiv, I think all our leaders have said on record, and at the cost of repetition, I would say that this is not an electoral issue. It's a matter of faith, ethos, belief, and the patience of Indians. You've had for 70 years a decision which is pending. We are not bowing down to anyone. If at all, we are echoing the sentiment of every citizen that wants a temple built at not the disputed site, but in and around the areas which should legitimately go to the rightful owners. Okay. And in this particular case, we know who they are. The fact is that you have a consensus which is awaited through a court of law. The evidence that has been produced vis-a-vis the excavation of the site, which historically proves that there was a temple which has been submitted to a court of law, and despite that, if there is no decision which is taken and everything seems to be pending, at least let the temple work start in the periphery, not the disputed area, so that there is a belief that the people of this country have not been disrespected, where communities have come together for a, if you want to call it bhaichara or ekta is one way of seeing it, but the other way of seeing it is that in a country as large as India, if you respect, assimilate and accept different beliefs coexisting, and especially when it comes to a matter of sentiment as large as the Ram Mandir, I only think it would be the correct way to unify India.
Because, you know, Sriraj, the BJP's leaders are looking at this as a very, very clearly defined kind of move in the Supreme Court. They say that if this undisputed land is given back to the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, then construction or preparations of the Ram temple can actually begin. This is separate from the actual hearing on the disputed site. How is the VHP seeing this, Sriraj? Is this optics or is this substantive?
Well, Shiv, first of all, we welcome today's move. We always say that, you know, all the hopes are lying with the BJP and Mr. Narendra Modi's government, because the very existence of Lord Ram has been questioned by Congress and the other so-called secular parties. So all hopes are lying with BJP only, and we are definitely for sure that this move will definitely take things forward for a construction of a large, for a grand Ram temple at Ayodhya. And we have to understand, we Hindus are the indigenous people of this nation. We are not migrants. We have a more than 5,000-year-old narrative.
Okay.
The history of India is not from when Babur invaded India or when his son Humayun or Akbar or Shah Jahan or Jahangir. We have a narrative, 5,000-year-old story, a narrative.
Okay.
So, you know, we are the original people of this land. We know how Islam came here.
Okay.
So this temple has got a significance, and we are fighting for the birthplace of Lord Ram.
Okay.
We are not here fighting for a mere temple.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I also, you know, I'm going to ask a more nuanced question in just a moment after I get in Wing Commander GB Atri. Wing Commander Atri, you know, until recently you were with the Congress, you are no longer with the Congress. The Congress has refused to enter any debates on the Ram Mandir issue because of the sensitivities involved, and they've been criticized for having a wishy-washy position on it. But where do you, as an analyst, where do you see the BJP's move in the Supreme Court? The reason I ask is because the central title dispute is still, you know, to be heard by the Supreme Court. In view of that, do you think that the return of this undisputed land, giving the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas the right to begin construction of the Ram temple, is something that can actually happen? Do you see is it optics or substantive?
Absolutely, Shiv. Let us see this in three perspectives. Number one, religious or faith perspective. Let me tell you very clearly, none of the Indians who are here are opposing the building of Ram temple in Ayodhya. Ram was born in Ayodhya, and there is no doubt about it, and there should not be any doubt about it. There is no opposition from any Indian to build on the faith issue a temple in Ayodhya. Number two, the political issue. The people are politicizing the Lord Rama whenever it suits their convenience. Let me tell you, Shiv, 31st March 2003, Supreme Court gave an interim order and stated that the disputed land also shall not be touched by anybody. And 2003, who was in the governance? It was NDA. What did they do then? They did nothing. They did not use it at that time at all. They could have vacated this day. They could have filed the same writ petition that time, so requesting the Supreme Court to give an immediate decision. Okay. They did not do anything. Now, secondly, allowing BJP to escalate this Mandir issue, Congress is also somewhere responsible. For one decade, that is two governments, UPA headed the two governments, and this order of Supreme Court was not even touched by those governments. Yeah. They could have also moved a writ petition, trying to see that the faith and needs of all the Indians of building a Ram temple is addressed. They did not do it. Okay. They allowed the BJP to make this election issue every time they go to the polls. That means there is somewhere some vested interest which want this Ram Mandir issue to come up only during elections. Otherwise, nothing to be done. That is a sad state of affairs. Thirdly, coming to the judicial system in my country.
I'll come to the judicial system, sir.
Is pending for 70 years.
I'll come to the judicial system. One second. Wing Commander Atri, one second.
Therefore, you are very important question. Will Supreme Court play into the hands of this 2019 election? I am sure it should not be. Therefore, my request, in the interest of peace and amity and harmony in the country, nothing should happen during this election time, which will create an unrest among people's minds.
Okay, got it. Shaina MC, there is a reasonable suggestion. There is a reasonable suggestion that the writ petition that's been filed by the Modi Sarkar right now could have been filed before. Why is it only been done now? Which brings me to my main question, which is why is the government and the BJP so shy, so diffident, you know, so touchy about the fact that this could be political? The fact that it's happening right before the elections, why not just come out and admit it and say that elections are coming and we made a promise?
So Shiv, here's my answer, and please listen carefully, because every time we have been questioned on intent, I want to say, what has our intent been so far? Our intent has been through consensus and through the honorable courts, we would have arrived at a verdict. Now, if every time there is a bench which is supposed to be a fast-track bench and the matter is deferred, the patience of the people of this country is running out. And when I say the patience of the people, it includes people from different communities too, who have extended their cordiality and said that no, they believe that the Ram temple must be built based on the evidence produced in a court of law, which is a historical fact based on the excavation of the particular spot. Now, if despite that you have a delay in the judicial process, why shouldn't the government and the centre intervene and say that at least respect us when we say that the area surrounding the disputed site, which does belong to the organization, must be given back to them, so at least the preparatory movement can start. Now, I don't see what this great timing or what this great spark is to suggest that this is a poll plank. If at all, when your patience runs out and you go to the Honorable Court saying that, okay, but if you have a question of the Ram Lala, at least the
one cannot ignore the fact, China, that the writ petition is coming right before the elections. Anyway, okay, you've had your say on that point. I won't ask that particular question again. But, you know, Union Minister Prakash Javadekar has just come out to say that if in the event that the Supreme Court agrees to this writ petition by the Modi Sarkar, then construction of the Ram temple can actually begin. Sriraj, I want to ask you, it's true that it has become a Tariq pe Tariq issue as far as the Supreme Court is concerned on the Ram Mandir issue. One reason or the other, dates have constantly gotten deferred and it hasn't been heard just yet. My simple question is, do you not think that if this undisputed land is cleared and Ram temple construction begins, will that not, in the minds of the stakeholders, I'm saying, not yours particularly, but since this is a conflict, I'm saying in the minds of the stakeholders, will that not undermine the central title dispute of the disputed land?
See, first of all, we are in favor of total land coming to us. Definitely, we welcome the move of the central government that the undisputed land should be handed over to the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas. But that does not mean that, you know, we are going to forego the Garbhagriha place. So the construction of the Ram temple will definitely begin. But we are going ahead for the entire land, including the disputed, so-called disputed land. That time and again it has been proved that there was a temple which was demolished by Mir Baki and a mosque which had no relevance was constructed. So today's move is definitely a welcome move. At the same time, that does not mean that we are going to compromise on the Garbhagriha land.
Okay.
Where today the Ram Lala Virajman is in position.
Okay, Wing Commander Atri, your view on that? The BJP says there's nothing political about it. They are taking into account the sentiments of people. But ultimately, the way I look at it as a journalist, Wing Commander Atri, is if it is heard favorably, it favors the government. If it's heard unfavorably, it still favors the government. At the end of the day, there is political benefit in this writ petition.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. You are absolutely right. They may keep on singing the same song 1,000 times, but you know that song will not be audible, or people will not be impressed with that song, because every time when संकट आता है, जब वेंकटरमण याद आता है, जब भी चुनाव आया है, बीजेपी सिर्फ राम मंदिर को लेके आया है, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है. इसलिए as a true citizen of this country, I request the Supreme Court to keep all this pending.
Sir, after 2010 there were so many elections which happened in this country.
This will give an advantage in an election to a particular party, and also if the decision is as you rightly pointed out, it could be the other way around.
Sir, after 2010 there were 14 elections also.
Will be so many state elections were also, which is against democracy. Democracy is for free and fair election and peaceful harmony and amity for all the religions in this country. That's what my constitution says, for which I stood in my uniform for 2.5 decades.
Okay.
Therefore, I respect that constitution much more than anything else.
Sriraj,
all
final comment.
Issues are subsidiary issues. They are not important issues today.
Sriraj, final comment. Go ahead.
See, for 70 years, this matter is languishing in the court. Elections are going to come every now and then. From 2010, after the Honorable Allahabad verdict, there were several elections had taken place. Elections will come. Sometimes it may be a central election, or sometimes it may be a state election.
That is true.
This cannot be connected with election.
Okay.
100 crore Hindus are waiting for more than 500 years.
Okay.
And more than 70 years, the case is languishing in the courts.
Okay.
There has to be an end somewhere.
There is no doubt about that.
Never-ending story.
No, there is no doubt about the fact
deprived.
that the dispute has been on for decades together without any possible end, any visible end. Elections come and go. Ultimately, things will be seen through the prism of elections. And with the 2019 elections coming, there is going to always be a perception that the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, the Ram Temple movement is a political move. The BJP, the Sangh Parivar, the VHP say this is something that's been on for decades. This is justice for Hindus. This is justice for Indians. We'll have to see when the hearing comes up what the Supreme Court actually decides. Shaina NC, Sriraj Nair, Wing Commander 3. Thank you very much for joining me on this debate here on 5 Live.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.